You know, there's a specific sound that a rubber wheel makes on polished marble floors, a squeak, followed by a low rumble that becomes the soundtrack of your life when you're invisible. For Elias Thorne, that sound was his heartbeat. 54 years old, wearing a gray jumpsuit that had been washed one too many times, pushing a yellow cleaning cart through the 47th floor of the Apex Meridian Tower in Manhattan. It was 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, and the air in the office didn't smell like work. It smelled like aged leather, expensive cologne, and that distinct, crisp scent of money being printed. Elias wasn't supposed to be seen. That was the unwritten rule of the night shift. You clean the glass, you empty the shredders, and you vanish before the masters of the universe look up from their Bloomberg terminals. But tonight was different. Tonight, Julian Sterling, the 30-something billionaire CEO of Sterling Apex Capital, was hosting his annual Titans Gala right there in the main trading floor. We're talking guys in suits that cost more than Elias's car, women dripping in diamonds, sipping champagne that tasted like rent money. And Elias, he was just trying to get to the trash can in the corner without making eye contact. But life has a funny way of putting you in the spotlight, exactly when you're trying to hide in the shadows. Hey, you, the mop guy. The voice cut through the ambient jazz music like a whip. Elias froze. His hands tightened on the handle of his cart. He didn't turn around immediately, hoping, praying, it was someone else. But then he felt it, that heavy silence that falls over a room when the predator decides to play with its food. I'm talking to you, boss, the voice came again. Closer this time. Elias turned slowly. Julian Sterling was standing there, holding a crystal glass, his face flushed with alcohol and arrogance. He was flanked by his entourage, young, hungry analysts who laughed at his jokes before the punchlines even landed. Julian flashed that $1,000,000 smile, the kind that never quite reaches the eyes. We're having a debate here, Julian said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. He gestured to the 50 or so investors watching. My friends here think the market is all about complex algorithms and predictive AI. But I said, no, the market is visceral. It's a gut feeling. Even the guy scrubbing the toilets probably has a theory. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Not a kind laugh. A sharp, jagged laugh. Elias felt the heat rise up his neck, burning his ears. He looked at his shoes-worn-out work boots with a scuff on the left toe. I'm just doing my rounds. Sir, Elias said, his voice rusty from disuse. He tried to pivot the cart to leave. Ho, hold on. Julian stepped in front of him, blocking his path. He pulled a crisp $100 bill from his pocket and waved it like a flag. I'm making it interesting. Give us a stock tip. Come on. You're around money all day. You people always hear things, right? Just give me one ticker symbol. If it's up by noon tomorrow, I'll give you $1,000. If it's down, well, you keep the 100 just for amusing us. Sir, please, Elias whispered, keeping his head low. I have a job to do, and I'm giving you a promotion for 5 minutes. Julian laughed, turning to his guests. Look at him. He's terrified. This is why some people own the building, and some people clean it. It's about nerve. Elias looked up then. He saw the faces in the crowd. He saw the smirks. He saw the phones held up, recording the entertainment. But mostly, he saw Julian's eyes empty, cruel, looking at Elias not like a man, but like a prop. And in that split second, Elias's mind flashed back to something that happened 3 hours ago. In his tiny apartment in Queens, he remembered his granddaughter, Sophie, 7 years old, wheezing on the couch, her little chest heaving as she tried to pull in air. Severe asthma. The pharmacy had called earlier that day. Her inhaler, the specialized one insurance refused to cover, was going to cost $800 this month because of a price hike. Elias had checked his bank account. $42. He had looked at his sister, Sophie's mom, who was working double shifts at the diner and still drowning. He remembered the feeling of utter helplessness, of failing the people he loved because he was just the mop guy. Come on, Julian goaded, stepping closer, violating Elias's personal space. Don't be shy. Give me a tip. Prove you're more than just whatever this is. He gestured vaguely at Elias's uniform. Or should you just stay in your place? Stay in your place. That was the phrase. That was the key that unlocked a door Elias had kept bolted shut for 15 years. The room went dead silent. Elias set the brake on his cart. Click. He took a slow breath, inhaling the expensive cologne and the hypocrisy. He lifted his head, and for the first time, he looked Julian Sterling dead in the eye. The posture of the tired janitor vanished, replaced by a spine of steel. "You want a tip?" Elias asked. His voice wasn't rusty anymore. It was a baritone rumble, clear and precise. Julian blinked, surprised by the change in tone. "Yeah, amuse me. Short AstraZeneca Pharma," Elias said. "And dump your entire position in Mid-Atlantic Ledger Bank before the market opens tomorrow. If you don't, you're going to lose about 40% of your portfolio by lunch." The silence in the room changed texture. It went from awkward to confused. Julian's smile faltered, just for a second, before he forced a laugh. "AstraZeneca? Are you insane? Their stock is at an all-time high. They just announced a breakthrough in their Alzheimer's trials. My AI algorithm, which cost more than your entire bloodline will earn in a century, says it's a strong buy. Your algorithm," Elias said, stepping away from his cart, "is scraping headlines. It's not reading the footnotes." Julian frowned. "Excuse me, you heard me," Elias continued, and he started taking off his work gloves, finger by finger, revealing hands that were calloused but steady. "You're long on AstraZeneca because the press release on Monday said the Phase 3 trial was a resounding success, but you didn't read the trash." "The trash?" Julian scoffed. "Is this a joke? Is he drunk?" "3 nights ago," Elias said, his voice projecting to the back of the room, addressing the investors now, "I emptied the recycling bin in the office of your chief risk officer. I found a printed draft. The tension in that room was so thick you could have choked on it." Julian Sterling, the golden boy of Wall Street, was sweating through his $5,000 suit, thumb hovering over his phone screen, while Elias Thorne stood there in his gray jumpsuit, calm as a monk. "Well?" Elias asked, tilting his head. "The after-hours market closes in 4 minutes, Julian." "Tick-tock." Julian swore under his breath, a vicious, ugly sound, and furiously tapped his screen. "Sell, sell, sell." He liquidated the positions, millions of dollars moving in seconds. He looked up, his face twisted in humiliation. "There, I'm out. Happy? Now get out of my building before I have you arrested for corporate espionage." "I was leaving anyway," Elias said, turning back to his cart. "My shift ends at 10. He pushed the cart toward the service elevator, the squeak of the wheel the only sound in the room. No one stopped him. No one applauded. They were too stunned. But as the elevator doors closed, he saw Arthur Vance staring at him, typing something rapidly into his own phone. The next morning, the world didn't just turn. It tilted. Elias was sitting at his small kitchen table in Queens, watching the news on a tiny TV while Sophie ate her cereal. The headline on CNBC screamed in red, "Pharma giant crashes. FDA halts AstraZeneca trials." The stock had opened down 42%. If Julian had held his position, he would have lost $70 million in 10 minutes. Then, at 10 a.m., the second shoe dropped. Mid-Atlantic Ledger Bank suspended trading pending a regulatory announcement. Regarding liquidity concerns, they were insolvent. Just like Elias said. Elias sipped his cheap instant coffee, feeling a grim sense of satisfaction. He wasn't rich, but he was right. And sometimes, being right is the only meal you get to eat. His phone rang. An unknown number. "Hello?" "Elias." The voice was gruff, familiar. "It's Arthur Vance. Don't hang up." "I'm not looking for charity, Arthur," Elias said, watching Sophie struggle with a cough. "I just want to be left alone." "I'm not offering charity," Arthur snapped. "I'm offering a job. I was at the gala last night. I liquidated my positions in Astra and Mid-Atlantic 5 minutes after you walked out. You saved my firm about $100 million, Elias." Julian Sterling, on the other hand, well, word is his investors are pulling out. He's facing a liquidity crisis of his own. He saved his capital, but he lost his reputation. No one trusts a man who gets outsmarted by his janitor. Elias stayed silent. "I'm opening a new division," Arthur continued. "Forensic market analysis. I don't need guys who look at spreadsheets. I need guys who look at the trash. I need guys who see what's hidden. I want you to run it. I'm 54, Arthur. I have a record. I'm radioactive, remember? You were right, Arthur corrected. That makes you valuable. The blacklist is over. I'm offering you a base salary of $300,000 plus bonuses and full medical benefits starting day one. No waiting period. Full medical benefits. Elias looked at Sophie. She smiled at him, milk on her chin, then took a wheezy breath. That inhaler, that $800 piece of plastic that stood between her and the emergency room. Full benefits? Elias asked, his voice cracking slightly. Family included, Arthur promised. Dental, vision, the works. Come in at noon. Wear a suit, Elias, or wear the jumpsuit. I don't care. Just bring that brain of yours. Elias hung up the phone. He sat there for a long minute, looking at his rough hands. Then he put his face in his palms and wept, not from sadness, but from the sheer, overwhelming relief of a burden being lifted after 15 years of carrying it alone. When Elias walked into the Vance & Co. building at noon wearing an old suit, he dug out of the back of his closet, slightly tight at the shoulders, but pressed clean. The lobby didn't feel threatening anymore. He took the elevator up, not the service car, but the main glass pod. When he stepped onto the trading floor, silence fell again. But this time, it wasn't the silence of invisibility. It was the silence of respect. Heads turned. Young analysts stopped typing. They knew who he was. The story had leaked. The janitor of Wall Street, who took down Julian Sterling. Arthur Vance met him at the glass doors. He shook Elias's hand, a firm, equal grip. Welcome back, Arthur said. But the story doesn't end with a handshake. 3 weeks later, Julian Sterling was fired by his own board. His fund had suffered massive withdrawals after the story went viral. Because here's the thing about Wall Street. They can forgive losing money, but they can't forgive looking stupid and ignoring the genius in the room because of the uniform he wore. That was unforgivable stupidity. Elias didn't just take the job. He excelled. But he did something else too. Every Tuesday night, he stayed late, not to trade, but to teach. He started a free seminar in the company cafeteria for the support staff, the janitors, the security guards, the cafeteria workers. He taught them financial literacy. He taught them how to read the market. He taught them that their eyes and ears were valuable assets. 6 months later, I was walking past a newsstand and I saw a magazine cover. It was Elias Thorne. He looked older, tired maybe, but dignified. The headline read, "The Invisible Asset. Why Diversity of Perspective is the New Gold Standard." I caught up with Elias recently for this story. We sat in his new office corner suite, overlooking the very building where he used to clean toilets. Sophie is doing great, by the way. The meds are working. She's playing soccer now. I asked him, Elias, do you hate Julian for how he treated you? Elias leaned back, looking out at the city. Hate him? No, I pity him. He spent his whole life thinking he was a giant because he was standing on a pile of money. But the moment he stepped off it, he realized he was smaller than everyone else. He paused, tapping his pen on the desk. You know, people ask me for stock tips all the time now, but I tell them the same thing I told Julian that night, just in a different way. I tell them, stop looking at the ticker tape. Start looking at the people emptying the trash, the people driving the trucks, the people stocking the shelves. They know what's breaking before the analysts do. They know what's selling before the earnings report comes out. If you treat people like they're invisible, you're blinding yourself to the truth. And that's the takeaway, isn't it? We live in a world obsessed with status, with the shiny suit and the corner office. We assume that if someone is cleaning the floor, they must not have the capacity to run the company. But how much genius are we walking past every single day? How many cures for cancer? How many symphonies? How many market-saving ideas are trapped inside a mind that's busy worrying about paying for an inhaler? So next time you walk past someone in a uniform, someone serving your coffee or parking your car, look them in the eye. Acknowledge them. Because you never know. You might be standing next to the smartest person in the room. And hey, if you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever felt like your talent was being ignored because of your circumstances. I want you to drop a comment below. Share your story. Let's prove that wisdom doesn't wear a tuxedo. And if you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button. We're telling the stories of the underdogs, the overlooked, and the underestimated. Because the truth is, the view